right, so welcome to, we are almost at the end. I can barely stand myself. We are almost at the end of this fall series of Thursday Thoughts for 2023. This is weird. It feels weird, I'm not going to lie, that we are nearly at the end of 2023 and all of the work that we've done for this year. And 2024 will be here before we know it. But until then, a couple of things, updates from SCAMLE land. So tonight's session is actually going to be a really cool, sit back, relax, hope you pour yourself a drink. We're going to take a look at some photos and we're going to tell some funny stories, and we're going to talk about conference at National AMLE 50 that just took place. We've just been home for a couple of days and back to work for a couple of days, and ooh, that was, I'm getting too old for this, but we had a great time. So can't wait to share all the greatest highlights from SCAMLE land. However, here are the updates. So at this point, we have had a record number of applications for presenters. So that process has now been, my understanding, has now reached its conclusion. And so people should have received their information via email to confirm that they, in fact, are going to present. So at this point now, registration for conference is wide open. So it's better to reserve your room and reserve your spot at conference sooner rather than later, so that make sure that you get your spot reserved, ready to go. The planning is well underway. People are getting ready to confirm. And so lots of really important, lots of really great stuff. Looking forward to that first weekend in March in Myrtle Beach. Hope to see all of your beautiful faces there. So Thursday Thoughts is coming to an end, but we're not done yet. Next Thursday, we're going to be talking AI. So, and I know that that's a super hot topic. I've got some really great minds who are going to join me to talk about AI, because if I watch another TikTok video making fun of AI and the power of AI, I need to hear about applications.
I want to zoom in.
So, so please tune in next week. We'll be talking about AI. And then the final Thursday Thoughts, which happens on the 30th of the month, we will be talking all things next conference. So we'll be talking all things conference 2024. We're going to have conference chair people on the call, and they're going to be telling us, we're going to be dishing some secrets. We're going to be talking about everything that's in the queue for 2024 AMLE, SCAMLE in Myrtle Beach 2024. In the meantime, between now and then, remember, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us. We are, follow us on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the spots, right? Remember that my email is scamlepd@gmail.com. And also check out our website at www.scamle.org. And we want to thank them again for their continued sponsorship of these Thursday Thoughts webinars, which is awesome, coming to you from the safety, and it's way too dark, by the way, from my home. So tonight we've got good stuff tonight for us. Thursday Thoughts, 11/9/2023. As you all know, my name is Sarah Evanson Atkinson. I'm the Professional Learning Director for SCAMLE. In my real life, during the day, I'm an instructional coach in Greenville County Schools at Ralph Chandler Middle School, which, by the way, was just recently redesignated as a national school to watch. So, right? Okay, so redesignation 1 done. All right, so super excited and proud of the team that I serve and their excellence. I'm an ELA teacher for more than 20 years, and just like you, I wear a ton of hats, right? Wife, mom, friend, I do all the things. And so we work very hard to be sure that these webinars speak to things you want to know more about. So all of the content that's brought to you on these Thursday night webinars, remember, I'll have you in by 6 and out by 7. That's my job. So I'll have you where you need to be right by 7. Dr. McDonald can't join us on the call, but remember that he is our executive director, and so if he were here, we would want to make sure that he feels welcome. However, he can't make it tonight. On our call tonight is the board president, Jeff Jenkins. So welcome aboard, Mr. Jenkins. All right. Oh gosh, look, he's dancing. He's in his office, friends. So Mr. Jenkins, welcome aboard. Happy you're here.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody that's here joining us this evening. And for those of you that will be watching this recording, at a later time. It is our pleasure to provide these sessions for educators across the state and around the nation who tune into these, as a commitment from our board to be a organization that provides opportunities for people beyond just an annual conference, and have professional development and opportunities for growth and learning throughout the year. So thank you, Sarah, for hosting these sessions, and SAMLE is proud to sponsor them.
Oh, and Adrian, thank you, by the way, Mr. Jenkins. And Adrian says that that you are his idol, that you're still at the office. Well, don't make his head too big. You won't be able to fit out the door. But Adrian, happy you're here tonight. Absolutely. And of course, welcome, Mr. Jenkins. So as you all know, we just got back, a team of us from SCAMLE just got back from AMLE 50 in National Harbor, Maryland, which is just 30 minutes away from anything you want to see in DC. So I just want to share, I'm sharing with you my name badge. Go ahead and take a look at it, right? Looks like a pretty standard name badge. The really funny part about this is that the entire conference, Mr. Jenkins' name badge said he was from Afghanistan, which just tickled me to no end. So his name badge, unfortunately, says Ralph Chandler Middle School, Afghanistan, which I like, I just tickled me the whole entire time. But I do want to say that we arrived at the convention center. I beat the guys by a couple of hours, and it was stunning. The views of the water were just amazing. The conference center was just completely stunning. It was a resort. They had all the resort living that you could ever imagine. And I will say that the setup for AMLE 50 was simple. It was beautiful. It was clean. It was green. Everything we got was very green and very efficient. And I'm grateful and thankful for that. Check-in was a breeze. They found us in the system very quickly, and they got us all of our credentials without incident. So we hope, of course, we use them. We use AMLE as our mother organization. We use them, and we're always looking for ways to add efficiency and to add extra layers of high quality service here in South Carolina as one of their affiliates. And so I think it was important to note that it was very well organized and very, very well laid out, and it was highly efficient and very simple to navigate. So we got a ton of people on here tonight that were there, like they were there in the room where it happened. And so I want you guys thinking about what were your favorite sessions you went to, but I want to talk a little bit about their opening session to start us off. So their opening session of the conference was phenomenally done, very simply played. I really, really like it. And I think that we're going to look at even simplifying some of our opening session a little bit to mimic theirs, because I think it was really clean and really easy to follow. So one of our own, I can't let this go, right? From the Call Me Mister program, Shaquan Hurd was there, and he helped to introduce the first day of conference, which was Thursday morning. So first thing Thursday morning, he was on site to introduce conference, and Stephanie Simpson was there, and all of the major players from AMLE were there. Katie Powell was there, and they did a beautiful job presenting not only what's been going on in AMLE over the course of 50 years, but also, I will say, made some really striking statements about what the future of AMLE looks like and why it's important for us to be advocates for ourselves and for this work, and for all of it, for this whole thing that we're in. Because guess what? You're a teacher, and there's nobody in this room or around that I work with, or anyone in the profession anymore, who is just a teacher. None of us are just a teacher or just a principal or just a professor. That doesn't exist anymore. So if we aren't the ones who are looking to make policy statements about what the work that we do and the children we serve and the future of our nation to our policy makers, then we got ourselves a problem. And they did a beautiful job, just a stunning job with that, and really making some really pertinent pertinent and pointed policy statements about the future of education and how important the work that we all do is to the greater good and the future of our nation. So then we got to the opening keynote, which was unbelievable. The opening keynote was Jason Reynolds, and he was phenomenal. So for those of you who aren't familiar with who Jason Reynolds is, I want you to Google him. You're going to recognize him as soon as you Google him, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's that author. Absolutely. Guys on the call who were there for that opening piece, what do you think about Jason Reynolds? How was he received? What was your big takeaway from his keynote, besides the fact that you were in awe?
My ELA teachers were sending me just nasty messages. They were so jealous of me being able to hear him. The relevancy of just what he brought was amazing. His connections, and I took a lot of back from him. Again, we try to connect the child to school, but we really need to look at the flip side. I mean, really making it relevant for the student. So connecting school to the child. I mean, I thought he was fantastic. He told a story. It really spoke to a lot of what we're doing, but still my ELA teachers are just still jealous right now of that chance to hear him. But again, I thought his message was great.
Absolutely, I agree. Someone else, what do you think about that opening piece from Jason Reynolds? I thought it was stunning. Come on, Jenkins, we know you have something to say. Come on.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. I love Jason Reynolds. I've got like fan crush on him for forever. So my wife is a middle school librarian, so you can imagine her saltiness about me having an opportunity to hear Jason Reynolds speak. She's attended several events of his. We've got like signed books at the house. Like we're all in Jason Reynolds fans. I'm with Paul. I think his story was powerful, and then as I kind of start getting kind of meta about it and thinking about what was he really trying to share to a room full of educators, it's the ability to hook what you're teaching someone to the story. Like that ability to take, like, I need you to learn something, but I'm going to take you on a journey with me. And so like I told, my wife's name's Galen. I told her, I was like, she was like, I want to hear about his keynote. I said, it was so well done. And I said, it was so cheeky from like a nerdy teacher point of view too, because like the way he crafted that story and hooked the thing that he wanted me to learn from what he was sharing, which is about how we reach kids, right? Through the storytelling was like, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. Like, like if we could figure out how to tell stories in our classrooms about the things we want students to learn, because that's really what he was modeling for us. And in addition to the power of what he represents, what his work represents, and all of the other things that kind of came with it. It was really good.
One of the things I noticed too, and thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for those comments, because one of the things I noticed too about Jason Reynolds as a keynoter is that, okay, so the space that we were in was large, right? But we were fairly close to him in proximity. But I almost feel like that wouldn't have mattered. He was able to bring a level of intimacy that I felt like I was just hanging out with him, and he was telling me a story that something happened with him and his mom, and he happened to catch a TV show, and these were his connections that he was making, and he took us on this excellent journey. And I think the most powerful keynotes are able to do that. They're able to make a big room feel small. They're able to make you feel as though he's talking to me, like he's speaking to me and the work that I do in a very sort of, if it's possible, to be intimately professional. And I just love that about his keynote. Did anybody else who's on the call who was able to catch the keynote, did anybody else notice that similar kind of thing? Like it felt like he was talking to me, and that just felt really, really powerful. Really, really powerful. Nope. Chris is not chiming in. He's like, nope, I'm out. Nope. Okay, fair enough. Absolutely. Katie, give us a smidge of what was happening backstage. Like, is he a cool guy to work with? Was he like, tell us the backstory. That's what people want to know, is like the secret dish.
Well, I can tell you there's no tea to spill. So, y'all know what it's like to work with some of these big name presenters, and that
Yeah,
sometimes their public persona versus who they are behind the scenes don't match. But
yeah.
I happened to be in the green room that morning typing up the speed learning slides because we had forgotten that those need to exist. So I was hiding in there to type up the speed learning slides, and Jason and his team were just hanging out in there. And it's just like he was just any other person. There wasn't any like diva-ness to his personality and how he navigated that space at all, to the extent it was like I had to kind of remind myself that's Jason Reynolds.
Yeah,
Like
that's Jason Reynolds. Like, whoa, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Well, I
he and
love
his
that.
team were
I
great to
love,
work with.
and I love that when a keynoter comes in and is just like, yeah, I'm just here to do, I'm gonna do a thing, I'm gonna work. But he gets that, like I said, I can't describe it. It's that thing where you feel like, oh my gosh, he and I are just hanging out and he's telling me a story. And those are the most powerful moments for me, for sure. Those are the most powerful moments for me. So from that keynote, talk about setting it off on a perfect way to start the conference. From there, we all kind of took a walk. All of us took a walk, and we checked out the amazing vendor hall. Now, they had a great vendor hall, lots of different services. One of the things we noticed, a lot of the vendors you would probably recognize in the vendor hall, but there were a lot of organizations, a lot of nonprofits that were present that were very eager to help us. And I think that's really, really cool. Katie, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. And I don't know what's under your purview and what wasn't under your purview, but one of the things that I noticed was like there were several nonprofit organizations that we are like here in South Carolina. My school is getting ready to take getting ready to interact with, like, for example, Girls Who Code. And there's a number of other ones where like there was a money management nonprofit that I'm going to start working on with getting some of that curriculum into our club time and at our school. And I just thought that was really cool, frankly, that these organizations were here, and these folks were like, yeah, sign us up, like we're ready, like all hands on deck, we're ready to help the kids. And I really loved the feeling of that.
Yeah, lots of credit for that goes to Helen on our team. She's been
Yes.
responsible for booking and overseeing the exhibitor and sponsorship spaces. And we added exhibitor booths, I think twice, because of the degree of interest. So Helen did a really amazing job selling the exhibit hall space. We don't really tell any organization no unless there's like some philosophical issue where, like, what they were doing as a business or an organization would be not aligned with our work. There was even like a window company like selling you windows for your house there, and we were like, do you understand, like the builder one is next door, and they're like, no, teachers have to buy windows too, we want your space. And so, fine, you're going to pay us, you can
Okay.
come sell your windows, we
For
don't have a
sure.
problem with that. So I think really what it communicates that we had so many nonprofit organizations interested in exhibiting is what we're doing as an organization and how that resonates with who they'd like to get in front of and who they'd like to partner with to do that work. That the kind of educators and schools we attract to our event are the kind of people they want to be working with and getting in front of.
Absolutely. I mean, the professionals on site at this conference were clearly interested in how can we best serve the children, how can we best serve our families and communities. The conference itself, if you take nothing away from this discussion tonight, I hope you take away from the fact that you take away the idea that this was a conference that was very teacher facing, was very student facing, was very family facing, was it was all about the teaching and the learning and everybody who loves us in between. And that is and that's very valuable to me as an educator and somebody who's been serving for her whole adult life. I really value that to a very high degree. So Dr. Burkett was a presenter at the conference. Notice my little fancy slide there. Sloan's going to kill me. She's going to be like, where'd you get my headshot, and put it on there? But Sloan did a great job too. So Dr. Burkett, what was your session about, and how did it go? I had a chance to sit on his, and it was phenomenal, and we're going to partner with him, but we'll leave that for later. Go.
Well, thank you so much. My session was called Coaching the Coach, and it really delved into our work at the University of South Carolina, building a coaching academy. It is made up of coaching teachers from our partner schools, our K-12 schools, including middle school, where we are really working on efficacy of coaches. Many times in our field, in the work of teacher preparation, and I think it happens in our schools as well, individuals who are great teachers are just deemed to be a coach for someone else, but aren't really given the tools on how to do so. And so we took 24 classroom teachers who really wanted to be better coaches, not only to pre-service teacher candidates, but to brand new teachers, to seasoned teachers, to someone who may just ask them some questions in the hallway. As we like to know, those hallway conversations are vital. And so we really brought about techniques and pedagogy into coaching, making sure they had a true coaching philosophy. And we found through our year-long work that these individuals really wanted more. And so 18 of the 24 have been working with us in year 2 to really refine that and really refine how coaching looks to them. For example, we have someone who works in early learning who really wants to know, how do you coach a paraprofessional? We have some who are working in the middle school who want to know, how do I help coach parents and guardians who come in who may need some work? And so we're really excited about that. And then how these individuals within their schools can then help build coaching and efficacy to others with whom they're working. So kind of a train the trainer kind of model based on research that we found. So it was a great time to do the speed sessions and kind of get individuals interested. And have already had a few reach out who'd like some more information.
That's awesome. And I will tell you this, South Carolina showed up and showed out at this conference. We were present and accounted for, and we were sure that our voices were heard, which I want to make sure that the membership hears me loud and clear. Like, we were there, we brought the best. Yeah. So Dr. Burkett, that's so exciting. I was in his presentation. It was phenomenal. And I'm super excited to be able to share. Like, it was really cool to be at a professional conference and have someone talking to the coach. Because normally I have to either sit with the principals, stinky, I don't always like to sit with the principals, or like I have to sit with the teachers, which I much prefer if I have a choice. But it's really neat when someone says, hey, you as a coach do a thing that's professional and very specific. And so that's one thing that I'm definitely going to push for at our conference. And obviously we have a much smaller scale when we're looking at providing the big menu and the big array of options for people, but we don't want to forget the coaches. We don't want to forget the coaches. The coaches are doing really important work in our state and around the nation. And so I was pleased that we saw there was plenty of resources for me too. So I could make sure I sort of sharpened my disciplinary spear. So I was able to hear from lots of different disciplines and hear some things. And I was also I was also really lucky to hear some stuff that was just special for coaches too. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Chris.
I was just going to say that's the other thing too, is I think we need to really begin in our whole vocation of education is honoring those who dedicate their lives to certain segments of what we do. And I think honoring coaches as a professional group in what they do, I think is really, really important. And I think we need to begin to do that, because we do it well in certain areas, but not so much others. And I think it's time they get their due.
For sure. Thanks. I like my due, Chris. Yeah, Colin. Yeah, okay. All right. So I want my folks who were at the conference with me, because I know you're on the call. I see your faces. And I hear your voices. I want you thinking about what your favorite session was that you attended and why was it special? Why was it your favorite? So on Friday, I was able to present my session on Friday, and I had the opportunity, according to the app, I saw 28 people, which I think is pretty darn good. And several folks have already reached out for additional materials and to talk further, which is super exciting. Especially ones from our region. Like I've been able to talk to a couple of people from Alabama who were interested in learning more. But essentially, my speed session was concerned with this idea of learning routines. So we're taught from the very first day of like teacher school that we use a lesson plan, because lesson plans keep us organized. Agreed, totally. We need a lesson plan. But here's the problem. As we bring in more and more folks who are more and more professionals from outside of our trained discipline of education, they're not, the lesson plan is insufficient. The lesson plan is not enough. And so out of kindness, what happens is many teachers will say, here's my whole stack of lesson plans from my first 18 weeks. Go ahead and deliver that. Now, They may or may not be successful with that delivery. And we know enough about how people learn in general that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know enough now that we can add another layer of routine so that not only that does that support our learners so they know what to expect and can anticipate our instructional moves, but also what we get at is we have more support for those either folks who are new to the profession or new to the profession from another profession, another position that they've taken from another place. And so looking at it this way, what I had the folks in my group do is we talked a little bit about routine and the power of routine and why that's important for learning. And then I went ahead and we did a sort. We sorted all these best practices using music as a launch, using movement, allowing for student collaboration, using writing, using prompts, any number of things. There was the Ziploc bags were full of all of our best tricks of the trade, right? And then they had to sort them out and figure out, well, when would we use such best practices? When would we use such strategies on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on? And so they've sorted this out and they looked at it and they thought, well, this is a really interesting class. Like I could really do this thing. And so then I had them take a picture of it. And I said, what would happen if we did that thing every week? What would happen? It'd only take us about 2 or 3 weeks for the students to be able to anticipate what was coming next. And then we can plug in any content we want to into these best strategies and best practices, and we can kill it every single week. That was really changing for some folks. And my favorite moment was when there was some teachers, I forget where they were from, Jeff. Do you remember where they were from? But they turned around to Jeff and they figured out that Jeff was the principal of the school where I serve. And they looked at him and they didn't even look at me and they said, do they really do this at your school? And he said, yes, ma'am, they do. And they kind of stood there a second like, hold on a minute. Like, if we think about it this way, it really demystifies some of the scariness of being a new teacher, new to the classroom. If I can get really good at 5 things, then I can win the game more often than if I'm trying to, I'm willy-nilly all over the place trying to learn a million things myself and trying to get students in front of me who are wiggly as it is trying to learn anything. So this helped. So my approach was simply to try to help folks to better support some of these new teachers who are coming into our buildings, and also to shore up some of the soft spots of our, there are a lot of our seasoned teachers, frankly, they're tired. And if we can build some routine in, then we can take away we can take off some of the stress because they'll know what to expect too. So my session was excellent. I had a blast. I love I love anything where you're gonna get people off kilter. I even made my session. We had to stand and do a little bit of mindfulness. So they got all they wanted, bargained for and more. So that was super exciting. One of my favorite sessions, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I want you to share out what your favorite sessions were. One of my favorite sessions where I was able to connect with Robert Jackson. He was there presenting, and so I went to his session. And remember that Robert Jackson will be at our conference in March. He is from Atlanta. And he does a lot of important work in Atlanta. That's where he lives with his family now. And I can't wait. This content from Robert Jackson, it's always kind of heavy to hear, but it's important. It's heavy to hear and it's heavy to process sometimes, but it's important and it needs to be said. And I have great respect. I have great respect for the people who deliver the heavy message, but that's important to hear. All right, so Paul, Dr. Dobbins, what was your favorite session that you went to?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put just a plug in for the whole conference. This is my second year in middle school. I was a career high school person, and so this is year number 2, and so I've been trying to dive full in and trying to get the most out of it. And I just thought that this, not a lot of people in my area, in my kind of sphere of communication and with middle school in this area, we're talking about this. And I told my wife, I was like, am I making a wrong decision going to this conference? And then as soon as I arrived, I was like, no, not at all. And I think for those of you that are on the call, like this conference provided so many, and I think Sarah talked about it, Dr. Burkett. There's so many pockets that you can find, and I focus mine on climate, culture, grading, and some other areas. Like you can tailor your journey through the conference really with what you want because of the number of sessions. And I think the formatting was great. I think the just the time of year. This is what I spoke about a little bit with some of my colleagues. Is it just came after the first quarter. We're primed to make changes. So this is just a perfect time of year to really look at it and be reflective. And the conference setup was great. I thought it needed that space because of the size of where we were. So it was, it was beautiful and it was great. But I also think that the layout was good, and I can see why AMLE chooses that type of facility because you're bringing so many in there. And so I thought the vendor showcase was really nice. And what made it really nice was the poster sessions. And I thought that was a really niche thing to do of having the poster sessions, but having hyperlinks with QR codes. And I thought that was something that we could take back on any conference you go to. Is that's an easy way to do it, and then it launches into another piece. So they were able to get 50 more sessions right there, but not really. But you could take it back, and I could take a quick scan of it, and I could send it to my staff who were in that area. And so thought that those were just really good. So for those of you if you haven't been to AMLE, the national conference, again, I'm going to be a regular now because I just think that's that important. One session I didn't get to, and before I get to a couple of my favorites was the AMLE policy session. Didn't get to that one. I just conflicted with another time, and so I really wish I was able to get to that one. I heard that was a really good one. I think that's important for us to be change makers within middle level education. So like you talked about earlier, I think that's important to do, that we really stay our ear to the ground and connecting SCAMLE to our national organization and to our schools. And so I think those are just the sphere of connection needs to grow. And I hope that I was talking with Jason Davis, and him and his cohort, his counterpart are from I think Creighton Middle School and Richland 1 in South Carolina, and they do a lot of conference talks. And he was talking about the middle level school of distinction, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so that was another little carrot to kind of go after. But just overall, a great conference for those of you that are on the call that just haven't been. Really try to see if you can talk with your administration or your district and try to put that in there. I went to a superhero talk. It was a school out of Maryland, and I forget the principal's name, but it was building positive school culture. And they used a superhero theme and for the entire everything that they do. And it just got me thinking of theming and how we are really intentional about what we do. And his message was just really good on just looking at just what you're doing with your school and really how are you connecting your kids to your those little nuggets of they did May the 4th be with you Star Wars concert. I mean, little small things, and he showed him dressing. Halloween was big for their school and just embracing it. And I thought it was just a really good talk. And it was just, and he talked about infusing the theme into your curriculum. And so there's just a lot there. Went to equity and grading. Powerful to look at what's out there, the possibility of really impacting our students. There's another couple ones on the school counseling component of this, and that's such a big thing right now of really your school counseling program and how are they getting into the classrooms, how are they getting connected with the students. There's one talk that talked about they have a kind of almost like a student drop-in room. And they try to create this culture where students are during lunchtime, they can come in and create this own little area. So too many great talks to really say what's my favorite, because they all were. Unfortunately, didn't get to my South Carolina cruise talks, but I knew I could maybe catch out another end. But there was just a lot out there that were just really good to see. And just is drawing on those ideas, coming back and really putting into practice. And I think that's the piece of this at this conference. You're able to do that because there's just so much good content there.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. So I shared that I was able to see Robert Jackson and I've met him before, and he was a speaker at our virtual conference several years ago when we went virtual, like everybody else, right? But so this will be the first time that he's with us in person. But Jeff, what was one of your favorite sessions? And then I love who, like, it makes me, when I go to these conferences, it makes me so excited to meet and be in the same room as the keynotes that we've booked for our conference coming up. Like, I get excited about that because that's like one of the cool parts of my job is like I get to handle the talent, and I'm so excited. It makes me more and more excited.
Thank you. Sessions that I attended were great, and that certainly will speak to those. But one of the standouts for me was, and Katie, maybe you can kind of help me with describing what the thing was, but it was lined up outside some of the keynote spaces where it was the students writing and some of their things that they had posted. But the ones that really like hit hard were it must have been some kind of a prompt, I'm presuming, and the kids were writing about what their teachers meant to them and the impact that their teachers made. And some of the way that those children wrote, like, I'm sitting there, I'm a bit of a wear my heart on my sleeve kind of guy. It doesn't take much. I'm watching all the Hallmark movies, just kind of like that. That's how I'm living. Coffee, PJs, on a Hallmark movie. So, but I got a little emotional, like sitting there reading, like, my God, there's a human being in the world impacting children to the point where this child took the time to write about them using the words that they used to describe that impact. And that was just really powerful to see those writings. It was so affirming. I know one of the things, like, we're just working on personally in our own building, and I sense it's such a nationwide focus on data and growing kids. And if you're not, you're on somebody's political state watch list or whatever. And and I guess growth and all those things have a place, but that just erodes efficacy so much. And so to sit there and listen to see those students and what they wrote about, middle school, and the advice columns parts that were in there, it really sort of just hit me where I needed to be hit. Like, we do make a difference in the lives of kids, and sometimes we forget all of that when we're chasing these sort of political aims that are tied up in our business. So that was powerful. That hit me. Katie, do you want to maybe shed some light on like what that was we were seeing?
Yeah, so we're always looking for ways to elevate student voice at the conference, but having lots of students attend can be challenging. There's a lot of logistics and liability there. So local groups can come in, because their school can coordinate that. So we had, the bands, the orchestras, the various student performances. But a way to engage and invite more students to be part of it is we have a student sound off competition. And the one we did in the past, we almost made the prompt too narrow. The description of the project they needed to do too narrow, and students were just thinking outside the box and sending us things where we're like, this is amazing. It doesn't meet what we said, but it's better than what we said. So this year we just gave them the prompt, what does it mean to be a middle schooler in 2023? And we gave some suggestions for how they could share that with us, but really just gave them the floor then. And so there were drawings, there were songs, there were videos, there were letters, essays, all kinds of things that they produced. And I had the privilege of being part of the little evaluative team to, see who our winners were going to be. And it was an incredibly moving and compelling experience. I will say a lot of the submissions we received from students spoke to how hard it is to be a kid these days, and how much they wish they knew the adults in their world saw and understood that. They spoke to how much stress they live under. And so the message from them was loud and clear. So I think the way the team that put together the posters chose to display those messages from students was beautiful. It was impactful that you got to just kind of walk past them and see them like an exhibit. And then our sound off competition winner got to perform live during one of the keynotes. And boy, she just absolutely rocked it. What an incredible little human being.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to turn on the radio and get to hear. I mean, I was to tears. I mean, it
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, she
It
had
was
such
amazing.
presence to own a stage that
Oh,
size with the audience of our
yes.
size, as a young person, and she just absolutely dominated that space.
And I also enjoyed the panel discussion with the AMLE Teacher of the Year and some of the other. I think they were the Sound Off winners. Is that right? Is that who those young people were there on the panel? But the panel discussion was wonderfully done. And some of those kids, I just want to say, you know what? Forget about school. You're hired because you're one of the few who get it. Like it was amazing, amazing. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed the panel discussion and the policy talks. That was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. Well, the elevation of student voices, actually, we talked a lot about that when we were at the conference, and that's something that we really want to do because we've toyed with bringing in groups from across the state. We've done that several years, and as Katie shared, it is very expensive, and it is it's a chore because you can't take kids away from their mamas and daddies. That's just not a thing we do, right? We're not in that business. And so there's the logistics with it are super complicated. But I love the idea that we can harness the use of technology and we can hear from kids all over from every corner of this state. Everybody has access to a little bit of internet and a basic Chromebook, and we can hear what they have to say. So be on the lookout for that, by the way, because we want to hear. We are working on that. I'm in the process of building that out, and we're going to do something similar because we want to hear from South Carolina kids for sure. So favorite sessions. We also had Sloan Joseph there. She was presenting as well. So there was a lot, like I said, South Carolina showed up and showed out at the National AMLE conference. So I'm going to open up the chat for just a second. There are a couple of folks on this call. What are some sessions you'd love to see at SC AMLE that address something that's important to you? Or, okay, so there's two ideas here. I would love to see sessions that are delivered in this way. All right, so I want to try to get a feel for the people in the room. What kinds of things would you like to see sessions at SCAMLE address? What kinds of ideas, concepts, etc.? And then what kinds of sessions would you like to see that are delivered in a very specific way? And drop your ideas in the connections in the chat, and we'll illuminate those as we move forward. So again, what kinds of topics would you like us to see addressed at our conference? And then what kinds of sessions would you like to see that are delivered in a really specific way? Some people really like video, some people really like short sessions. Like I don't know if it's my late onset ADD, Mr. Jenkins, or what, but I'm really loving the speed sessions. Like that's about all I can focus on. Like I'm good for 15 minutes, I can commit. And then I know I'll be moving on soon. I think I become more and more like a middle schooler as time goes by rather than the other way around. Like I don't know, maybe I age backwards. That's just what I decided. So we're going to shift our talk actually tonight a little bit differently. And I want you thinking also, so SCAMLE meets in Myrtle Beach, and it's a fun place, guys. People go there to go on vacation in Myrtle Beach, beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And so we were in a place, and the purpose of conferencing is not just to learn lots and lots and lots, although we did learn lots and lots and lots, but team building and having shared experiences for your adults builds efficacy, builds confidence, builds that family feeling that people want in their workplace, whether it be a school or an office or whatever. And so, look, who am I if I don't have some, pictures of food that we enjoyed? So one of the evenings that of conference, Jeff decided that it was on his bucket list. He wanted to eat in Chinatown at the place where the gentleman makes the noodles in the window. We have to. This is it. Now, unfortunately, we grabbed our Uber, and when we arrived in Chinatown, there was a hockey game that was going on simultaneously. So there were a few extra folks in town than we had anticipated. But nevertheless, we made it into the restaurant, and we had some of the most phenomenal noodles that you could ever imagine. And we then, after we were full of noodles, so the noodles are all in our bellies and are floating around in the noodles, right? He decides that what he really wants to do is he really wants to traipse around DC at night, and he wants to see the monuments all lit up, which is awesome. And in fact, we walked right by Katie, who was with a group of, they were like pre-service educators, right, or grad students or something. And I'm running away from the rats and trying to keep up with the guys, and my feet are hurting and I'm full of noodles. But you know what? We were bonding, friends. We were bonding, and I stayed up past my bedtime, and I'm glad I did. So team building, shared experiences are so important for those professional teams. And we want to be sure that we're tending to that as well in Myrtle Beach. So what I want you to do is I'm going to tell you about these pictures in just a second, because I know Mr. Jenkins is going to want to say a couple of things about these too. But I also want to share before I do that, I want to talk about what's going on in the chat for 1 second. So Mr. Jenkins offered, he loved how Jason Reynolds gave a how-to on building relationships that matter. We hear a lot about build relationships. People tell us to build relationships, and they shake their fingers at us and say, well, the reason that you're having these issues is because you don't build relationships. But then we don't really tell people how to. And it's not so much, it's not an innate skill. Like, we're not born normally knowing necessarily how to work in a group and be collaborative and build relationships with other people. Those are skills we acquire over time. And so it's assumed that, like he says, that many people know how to build them. And so he's hoping to see more sessions that help him better to learn the ways, the how, for pro teachers, how pro teachers actually build these relationships in the first place. Absolutely, very powerfully said, and I agree. You know, it's when you ask the really, really excellent teachers, how did you do that? They say, I don't know. And then they walk away, right? They walk away because they got a smile on their face because they just did it. It was magic. But it's not magic, y'all. And the reality is that we can dissect it and we can see how it works. And so absolutely, that was certainly one of the powerful moments for me too. I shared that moment, absolutely. Kanisha says different school themes and how to get student buy-in. Absolutely. You know, Kanisha, student engagement continues to be a thing that we struggle with. You know, people say all the time, like, post-COVID adolescents are different adolescents. There are some things that bind them for sure, right? An adolescent is an adolescent, it is an adolescent. But there are things about the post-COVID adolescent that are just unique. They're just unique. And we have to adapt. We have to adapt for our safety and for theirs, frankly. If we're going to get through this, we're going to have to get through this together, and we're going to have to figure out how to adapt. So back to team building real quick. So shared experiences with your team, super important. And I'm going to ask you to be thinking about what kinds of things are you thinking about doing with your team in Myrtle Beach? Because that's super duper important. I want you to come learn with us, but I also want you to have a good time and really connect with the other adults that are in your team. So one of the things I shared with the guys when we first got there, I said, I've been to DC lots of times, right? And I said, but I've never been able to make it to the Museum of African American History. And I want to go to that museum. It's really important to me. I really want to go to that museum. I've been to like many of the others, and this was just one I just never made it to. It's one of the newer ones, and I wanted to go. And so the guys were down for an adventure. And so after my presentation was over, we hit the streets, right? And we got ready to go to the museum, and we got our ticket, and we were good to go. And I talk about a moving experience. If you haven't had a chance, please put it on your list. It was a very, very moving experience to go visit this museum. And I took pictures. I have forever as an English teacher taught various texts about the civil rights movement, of course, and of course the Watsons Go to Birmingham. I think I know that entire book by heart, right? But one of the things that struck me was they have on display pieces of the window that have been salvaged from the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. And for those of you who know anything at all about either that time period in history, or, just if you've just ever read The Watsons Go to Birmingham, because everybody has, and I love that book. That was a moment for me. I was like, shut the front door. This is so great. Smithsonian got me again. So there was lots of cool things in this museum. Talk about moments to think, moments to pause. And Jeff, what was your response to when we walked down by the fountain? The fountain really, I needed the fountain, and it was a lot.
Oh man, overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think that when we first got there and we spoke to one of the folks that work there, just we kind of said, hey, what's your sort of like pro tips on how to navigate and kind of what order or whatever. And so we were just kind of listening, but she mentioned that the room, that what they refer to as like their reflection room. And she said, yeah, a lot of people go through the timeline, and that's where I would recommend that you start. She said, but after you have that experience, a lot of people feel some kind of way after that, is what she said. And she said, and you need that room for a minute to get back to yourself. So funny. And so, like you hear that, and then you go through that exhibit, and like it was powerful. And so, yeah, that room was equally powerful. And on the one hand, I was like, yeah, this is definitely a place to like reflect and get calm and like, breathe for a minute. But then at the same time, they still had some quotes in there that were like, as I'm trying to calm down, I'm reading them going, well, it's not really helping me calm down, because then that's just making me get all up in my feelings all over again. But it was really, really something to experience for sure. Yeah. Powerful place.
Yeah. So if that was one of the Smithsonian Institutes that you have not checked out, I highly recommend you do. And there's tons of resources online. So if we can't pack up our children and pack them all into our bag and take them with us, there's tons of resources available online so that you can have those similar experiences for students. And we know that shared experiences, it doesn't matter for adults, children, humans, right, are really important to make sure that our teams are really high functioning. So I want you to drop this in the chat. What's something that you traditionally do with your school team in Myrtle Beach when you go to conference? All right, what's something you traditionally do, so another one of those 2 choice deals. What's one thing you'd like to try to do this year at the conference that you've not done before? All right, so one more time, what is something you traditionally do with your school team in Myrtle Beach for your conference time? Or what is one thing you'd like to try to do this year at the conference that you've not done before? And don't say you're going to go shopping at the outlets, because you can go shopping at the outlets on the way home and you still make it home in time. So we're not shopping at the outlets. I'm talking about what can we do to build team? I'm just kidding. If you guys want to go shopping at the outlets, knock yourself out. All right. So drop those ideas in the chat. Many of our teams go out to eat. I know my team goes out to eat as a large team one night. That we'll make reservations somewhere and we'll go out to eat together. Because generally, and of course, look, there it is, Saturday night dinner. Okay. Latanya says, since we're local, I also make sure we eat dinner together to get to know each other better. For sure. Like whatever we can do to kind of plan out, to plan opportunities for your team to bond and to get to know one another and have shared experiences. It's really great for the kids, but it's really great for the adults too, to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. Whenever we can do to create purpose and not have it be so heavy. It's hard sometimes, I'm not going to lie, principals cover your ears. Sometimes it's really hard to bond over like a spreadsheet of student achievement data. Like, that's great. Everything it brings us to the room, but it may not keep us there, And so these kinds of experiences where we can share them and come together and have a good time and laugh and are really important to building those adult teams. And, sometimes people say, well, Sarah, what can we do to keep teachers like teaching? Like, I don't want them to leave, Sarah, because we know that teams who stay together win more often, right? Teams that have perpetually stayed together win more often. And I want to win. I like to win. Agreed. And sometimes we just have to let our foot off the gas and be able to really just be with one another as human beings. So anytime we can do that, and we want to make sure that we provide, certainly the backdrop is there. Myrtle Beach is beautiful, lots of things to do. But it may be worthwhile looking into, before you go for your trip, it may be worthwhile to look into, how are we going to spend some time with the adults together? Absolutely. Dr. Dobbin said, at another conference we did Top Golf with district staff, and a little healthy competition was a great team builder. Agreed. I mean, like even something silly like going to Myrtle Beach and going, out for a round of mini golf is really great for people just to kind of laugh and just be social with one another. If I'm emotionally invested and I know you, I'm much less likely to be quick to look for other options, because I already have a family and a place to settle. And so that's super duper important. Katie said we did Top Golf as our staff outing before AMLE 22, and it was hilarious how bad at it we all were, right? Hey, and Katie, sometimes you got to be bad together. You know, like you have to be like, haha, you suck. Aha, you do too. And then you're just like, it's this bonding moment.
Yeah, we were just universally glad no one accidentally threw a club, because there's all these warnings, please don't throw your club. Helen discovered that if she tries not to aim for the little cart that's picking up the balls, she will inevitably hit the cart that's picking up the balls. So yeah, we were very, very bad at it.
Absolutely. Katie said she found a really good cheeseburger and a giant onion rings a couple of blocks from the convention space. Oh, Mr. Jenkins, we know that place very, very well. Yes.
Yes, I'm thinking you're talking about River City. Yes, it's
Yeah,
a good
she's
one.
talking about River City. Heck yes. Yeah, so absolutely. Latanya, yeah, and Latanya, of course, shared that they eat dinner together. So yeah, anytime we can make sure we can make plans, right? We can make plans for our people to be together and hang out. Uh, Adrian says Friday evening during registration is a perfect time to let your hair down in fellowship, for sure. For sure. If you're just arriving into town, and Friday evening is a great time, is a great time for that, and just kind of just fellowship and be together. And so be on the lookout, especially for our session that does a preview coming up in a few weeks for Scamly 24. Please make sure that you sort of keep an eye out and eye peeled for those opportunities to let your hair down in fellowship, because we've got some of those hidden in there for you for sure. All right, so final thoughts, big takeaways for those of you who were at the conference. Dr. Dobbins, big takeaway from this conference. What do you think?
You know, I think going back to Jason Reynolds, I mean, connecting the school to the child, connecting what we're doing to, and even to our parents. We gotta look at it through their lens, and really get intentional on making sure what we're doing is connecting them, and not the other way around.
Fabulous. Excellent. Mr. Jenkins, final thoughts. What was your big takeaway from the conference?
Oh gosh, really just how important it is to come together with people who like do what we do, and to be in that space where we can feel, I think, empowered by the collective group that's there, and share ideas, reaffirm those things. Those kinds of experiences always kind of give me a boost of energy, that when those times when we start to doubt ourselves and whether the things that we're doing are really the right things, and you start looking at that person in the mirror, and you start talking to each other a little bit, like going to these kinds of sessions, and experiences always just help fortify, like, no, you know what, I'm affirmed, we're doing the right things. I've even learned a couple things I can get better at myself, and give some wings, or some wind in your wings a little bit. So it's really good.
Awesome. Katie, what do you think? What was your big takeaway after AMLE 50 concluded and you kicked off your shoes and were like, oh, I made it. I can't believe it.
Well, I've got to say, one of the best conversations I had was, again, back in the green room the next day when I was typing that day's speed learning slides, because again, we forgot that those would need to happen until we needed them. But having conversation with the folks who are getting ready to go on stage for the various aspects of that general session that day, we were talking about why this conference feels different than some of the other ed organization conferences that are out there. Hey, educators gathering together is always a great time, but there's something different about the vibe when it's middle school educators gathering together, and got to thinking about the fact that we're part of a movement. And I think that's what makes this feel different than other ed conferences. Even you feel it at the affiliate events too. Y'all are right. It's a party at your conference when everyone's registering and getting, mingling there on site. I was super impressed by the whole thing. But being part of a movement here, we're advocating for something, a movement that started decades ago and is still going. And I think that's something that unites us around a common charge. It's a mission that we're all a part of. So in addition to the fun and the energy of being together, the excitement, what it is to share ideas and come back with tangible takeaways, but it's also affirming that the work you're doing every day matters, that you're seen and recognized recognized in it, that you're part of something bigger than yourself and your role in even your own school, that this is something significant that you get to be a part of. I think that's something unique and special.
All right, friends, we're 30 seconds outside of 7 o'clock, and I couldn't have said it any better. You're part of something bigger than yourself. Don't forget us when you're planning your professional development. SCAMLE wants to be part of that plan. And we hope to see all of your faces, every single one. You know, I love to hug all of your necks. Really, it's true story. At SCAMLE 2024, the first weekend of March. I'm going to go ahead and stop share here for just a second, and I'm going to drop into the chat oh goodness, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. Okay. I'm going to, just kidding. All right, I'm going to stop. Hold on one second. I'm going to stop our